Hello, BookTube. Well, it's Poetry Tuesday come around again. This is an ongoing series on this channel. For those of you who are new, there are quite a few of you who are new. I have for a long time had trouble understanding or really sympathizing with contemporary poetry. And for the longest time, I did the normal old harumphing thing of saying that was poetry's fault. And now I don't think so. Now I don't want to believe that. I want to think that maybe there's a way to meet halfway, that I can, if I read more and think more about contemporary poetry wherever I find it, that maybe after a while, especially if I consult with you, I will come to develop not only a grounding in the genre, but also an appreciation of some of it. So that's what we're going to do. And this time around, this Tuesday, we're going to go back to the New Yorker. We've done the New Yorker quite a bit. We still have endless numbers of Poetry Tuesdays ahead of us, so there'll be plenty of opportunity for variety. But I thought we'd go back to the New Yorker. This is the February 4th New Yorker. Look at that Tom Gauld cover. It's gray and rainy and awful outside. And this character has a verdant inside, just a jungle of inside plants with tropical birds and a cat. And you can see out the window the iconic New York water tower on the roof of a building. I noticed when I went to New York recently, 2 years ago, how few water towers remain, which makes sense because they can be, as they decay, they can get extremely dangerous. And you're on the hook if you're the landlord. You're going to want to tear yours down rather than upkeep it. Once upon a time, when I knew New York well, when I lived there, there were water towers everywhere, on every roof, and they still have an iconic power. I love this cover. Although, from what I've been able to gather, the next cover, the one that will probably be coming in the mail today, is another one by Pascal Campion. Even better than the last one that we saw. Remember, we saw one by Pascal Campion a little while ago on a Poetry Tuesday called Big City, which was just a gray vertical canyonscape of New York with lights in all of the buildings. And when your eye looks to the unrelieved gray of the wall of the buildings in the foreground, you still see little specks of light because that's when you realize it's snowing. A gorgeous composition. And I think Pascal Campion has a New Yorker cover for the new week that's even prettier. I'll show it to you if I do get it. But this is the cover. The reason that it's loose is because I took most of the February 4th issue of the New Yorker and I sent it upstate to live and run free on a farm. But I did save some things. I saved, for instance, the cartoon. It's very sloppily drawn, which I don't like about the new New Yorker cartoons. But it pretty much sums up reality here. We have a fish in a bowl thinking about a cat, a dog thinking about a cat, and a cat thinking about a cat. That is pretty much the reality on the ground. But we also have a poem. And this is going to be the poem for today, for Poetry Tuesday, because I want to know what you think of it. I kind of like it, and I want to know what you think of it. It's by Frank Ormsby, and it's called The Butterfly House. And once again, I will transcribe the poem in the information section down below so that you don't have to just listen to me quack my way through it with a Yankee accent. You can also read it and ponder it on your own. And this is the poem. One more butterfly in the butterfly house will count as overcrowding. Sun all morning, and the heaviness of piped heat draws hundreds to the surface. They spend their days being exquisite in a history without wars. We are able, briefly, to forget the scaly intent, the cold-skinned slither 100 yards away in the tropical ravine. Hold up your arm, and with luck you will emerge into the garden, badged and sleeved with butterflies, 1,000 bright sails opening around you. And I mostly like that. I love the imagery. I think this is a case we've noticed in a lot of these free-form poems that we're reading, these contemporary poems, that there's not much in the way of structure, and that if there is a rhyme scheme, it's very loose, more like rhyming suggestions and callbacks, and they tend to be buried in the text of the poem rather than at the end of lines. This, I don't think, even has that. I don't detect anything in the way of internal structure here. So in that sense, this borders close to a complaint that a lot of you have voiced, and I have also had that complaint, where something is called a poem, but really it's just stacked prose. It's just prose arranged orthographically in some different way. But there's nothing in it itself that you could say is a poem. And this comes dangerously close to that. The thing I think that saves it is something that I've mentioned in these Poetry Tuesdays before, which is a certain poetic sensibility. If you were to take these sentences apart and stack them together as a paragraph, I think you would say, boy, that reads like poetry. And I think it's worthwhile in the course of these Poetry Tuesdays to excavate what we actually mean when we say something like that. Because we no longer mean when we say something reads like poetry that it reads with any kind of scansion or that it rhymes. And yet we can still say it. And you will still feel it. Definitely, it will still be true. I don't think this does that completely. But it verges towards that, where I start to wonder, okay, why is this in the stanzas that it's in? And why 4 lines in the first 2 and 3 in the last one? What is the rationale here on technical terms? But I love the imagery, and I also love in the second stanza, I love that reminiscence that we think of butterflies as being avatars of a history without war, because we don't think about the mass of butterflies out in the ravine just a little bit away who are living in the wild and not as gentle creatures. That I really liked. And I'm wondering what you think. So I will leave the poem down below. I'm wondering, did you like it? And what do you think about how it does what it does? And what about that business of, if you walk out and you're lucky, you'll be sleeved in butterflies. Does that actually have anything to do with the rest of the poem? Is the poem just about the experience of visiting a butterfly house and not about any theme underlying that experience? Let me know, because I'm learning a lot from your comments. So that in the butterfly house is our Poetry Tuesday for today. So I will wrap this up. We have a lot of other bookish stuff to talk about, so I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.